Corvus is one of those characters that really rewards clean and adaptive rotations. There's a lot going on in her kit, and if you don't manage it properly, you're leaving a ton of damage on the table. Since she's mainly used in Main's Bulletin, where min-maxing actually matters, I figured it was time to bring something back that we haven't done in a while, a full rotation breakdown. My Flutter page is P1 here, so things is a bit smoother for me, but overall with proper luck and adaptivity, you could still get similar results. At the start of the fight, you always open with Corvus's channeling. You want the mark on the enemy immediately, so the defense shred and charge stacking start rolling before anything else happens. Karen's starting Moxie scales off how many spirit and intellect characters you're running, and since we're on Flutter page instead of Ulrich, he starts at 3 Moxie instead of 4. That means to get his ultimate as fast as possible, we'll need to use both of his skills here. And obviously, we will also be using Flutter page's skill 1 here for the AP +1. Also, don't forget to use the tuning each turn to eat the rightmost card in order to speed up the card cycling. Turn 2 is pretty straightforward. This is where you fire off Karen's ultimate, and you also want to use 2 of Flutter page's skills to get her ultimate online. At the same time, you still need to be thinking about Corvus's Moxie. If you have to, use tuning here to generate her cards and keep the flow going. And one small but important thing, if you don't have enough card for both Flutter and Corvus here, you can move the cards instead for just the Moxie. Turn 3 is where things actually start moving. If everything went right, you should be sitting at around 60 to 70 dynamo here with Flutter page's ultimate ready to go. And honestly, this turn has one job and one job only: fill Corvus's Moxie as much as possible. No one else is really fighting you for actions here, so you just dump everything into setting her up. In turn 4 is where you hit rank 3 on the dynamo array for the first time. Corvus's ultimate is ready, and Flutter page's passive should be stacked as well. Corvus's temporary charges shouldn't be maxed this turn yet. If you want to squeeze out every bit of damage, the key is to use her ultimate as late as possible. So, you stack as many charges as you can before the bonus follow-up triggers. That said, there's one thing you absolutely don't want to do here: waste Moxie on Corvus. Once her Moxie hits 10, you still lead with her ultimate. Turn 5 is usually pretty simple. Since the first rotation is 5 turns instead of 4, you should be fully capped on temporary charges by this point. Because of that, you can mostly stop caring about where Corvus's ultimate is placed. The setup work is already done. What does matter now is Moxie generation. From here on out, you always prioritize generating as much Moxie as possible for Corvus. That's why you'll see me generating Corvus cards, then moving and fusing them to keep her Moxie flowing nonstop. Karen's ultimate also stops being something you really worry about from here on out, as he can cast it without consuming an action point thanks to the buff he gets each time the array hits rank 3. Oh, and one quick thing I forgot to mention. The reason I'm using Corvus's ultimate on the mobs instead of the boss is pretty simple. The mobs have to stay dead for the specific Main's Bulletin. If they survive and get to buff the boss at the end of the turn, the boss will unironically just one-shot my entire team after above 5 million damage. And yeah, I know I haven't done raid guides in a long time, but I'm probably gonna start again. These fights aren't something you can just auto anymore, and there's actually stuff worth explaining now. Okay, back to the rotation. Starting from turn 6, things get a lot tighter. You have to start playing more adaptively here, because from this point on, you need to generate 12 Moxie for Corvus every 4 turns. With the extra 3 Moxie she gets when the array hits rank 3, that lines up to exactly 3 ultimates worth of Moxie per cycle. We got a bit lucky coming out of last turns, so Corvus already has her ultimate ready at the start here. That lets us open with her ultimate immediately. Doing that gives you 2 things at once. First, it triggers an extra follow-up, which allows her to inject Dynamo into the array an extra time. If you didn't get her ultimate up this turn, then you must get it ready next turn if you want to have the 4-turn rotations. Also, Moxie isn't the only thing you're managing anymore. Dynamo matters just as much. Every time Corvus uses a skill, she generates 10 Dynamo, and each follow-up can inject up to 20, so after you use her ultimate, you might need to follow up with her skills to recharge Dynamo properly. And with everything done correctly, we are able to enter the next turn with 60 Dynamo in the array. I'll be real here. This next turn wasn't played that cleanly. I had 0 Corvus cards in hand, and with Flutter Page's ultimate costing no action point thanks to Karen's buff, I ended up with a stupid amount of actions to burn. Here I was tossing out Karen's cards to fill space, but honestly the better play would have been moving Corvus cards around for some extra moxie instead. That said, the setup from the previous turn still did its job. We're hitting rank 3 on the Dynamo array again, and this time it only took 2 turns instead of 3. Because I didn't generate enough Moxie last turn, we're starting the burst turn of the second rotation with only 6 Moxie instead of 8. That's not ideal, but it's still playable. Realistically, you want to enter the burst with 5 Moxie. But as long as you have at least 2, Corvus can still get her ultimate off during the first burst turn. Luckily, I had enough cards in hand to make this work without having to move anything. That said, I honestly could have played this better. I should have used both of her debuff cards first, since they directly hit the enemy, they give you extra charge stacks, and I also could have moved and merged the channeling skill for 1 more Moxie. Still, even with the mistakes, I was able to enter the second burst turn with enough Moxie to fire off her ultimate, which is really what matters. And on turn 9, probably the first time in the showcase, I actually did a proper move and merge. That gave Corvus an extra Moxie right there, and this is something you really want to do whenever the opportunity shows up. Getting Moxie earlier gives you way more breathing room later, especially when you mess up or RNG just decides to be annoying. You can also already see how stupid her damage is getting in the second rotation. While her multipliers and scaling will keep climbing, this is pretty much the damage cap per hit in practice, since the boss is also ramping up its damage reduction every turn alongside Corvus. While her multipliers and scaling will keep climbing, this is pretty much the damage cap per hit in practice, since the boss is also ramping up its damage reduction every turn alongside Corvus. Unlike the second rotation, I'm entering the third one without Corvus's ultimate ready, and that's actually fine. Like I said earlier, the real requirement is getting 1 Corvus ultimate within those 2 turns, so the team can hit rank 3 on the array as early as possible. This turn was honestly insanely lucky. Flutter Page's ultimate had just fallen off, and I had 0 Corvus cards in hand. If I'd missed both Flutter Page and Corvus cards here, I would have been forced to choose whose ultimate I could prep for next turn. But I lucked out and drew a Flutter Page skill 1. I moved it before using it for the extra Moxie, and that let me set up both Corvus's and Flutter Page's ultimates for the following turn. And honestly, that's pretty much it for the rotation. Once you understand these pieces, everything after this point is just rinse and repeat, same priorities, same checks, adapting to whatever RNG throws at you. For this particular run, it hit about 20 million damage around turn 21, and then the boss just decided to nuke my Corvus out of existence. 0 buffs on it, by the way. If you've got any questions, or if something in your own runs feels scuffed, feel free to ask in the comments. And as always, this has been Steamed Bun X, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.